All right, good morning, ladies. Welcome to class number 2 in our Rosh Chodesh Society to Believe or Not to Believe in Yourself. Hold on. Okay, got it. Good morning, Cheryl. Come on in, grab a seat. All right, so before we start, I just want to dedicate today's class to a speedy recovery for Henya Bas Bracha Devora Leah. She is a Chabad Shlucha who unfortunately had a terrible accident about 2 weeks ago, and we are praying for a miraculous recovery.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. I just got out of the shower.
Well, we are so happy to see you.
And I don't know how long I can stay, but I'll stay for as long as I can.
Listen, as long as you're here, we're happy.
I'll stay for as long as I can. Hi.
Hey, everyone. There's a whole table here full. We'll turn the camera around soon. All right. So I just passed around this worksheet over here, and I know not all of you have it on the screen. I don't remember if I sent it to some of you or not. So I'm going to read it out loud. And what I'd like you to do is there will be a scenario. And then there's 3 options. It makes you feel A, empowered, B, weak, or C, neutral. Does it make you feel really good about yourself, really bad about yourself, or nothing in between? So the first question is, you wanted to yell at one of your kids or your spouse, but you held yourself back. How did that make you feel?
I don't hold myself back.
Did it make you feel what?
I don't hold myself back.
You don't hold yourself, well, no, but you did. In this scenario, you did. Do you feel empowered? Do you feel weak? Or do you feel neutral? Like neither yes or no?
You have to write it down.
Well, she can do as she wishes.
Or bite my tongue into bleeding.
All right, the next question is, and I know Julia's answers to this. You didn't want to exercise, but you pushed yourself to do it anyway. Did you feel empowered, weak, or neutral?
Empowered.
Empowered.
The third one is you wanted to eat a pint of ice cream, but you held yourself back. How did you feel about it? When you held yourself back, how did you feel about it?
Just a little
empowered. Full pint. You had a tough day. You needed that full pint. It was the time of the month. You needed the pints. All right. The next question is, you didn't want to come to a Torah class, but you showed up anyway. How did you feel? Empowered, weak, or neutral?
Empowered.
All right. The next question is, you wanted to write a nasty email to you fill in the blank, but you did not. How did you feel? Lynn, we hear you laughing. Why?
Oh, I can't tell you why. But I love this one.
All right. And you didn't do it. So how did you feel?
Empowered. Empowered, yeah.
You didn't want to pray, but you made 15 minutes to have a conversation with your creator. How did you feel?
Empowered, yeah.
Right? You wanted to mope all day in bed, but instead you got up and you had a productive day. How did you feel?
Empowered.
Right? And you did not want to light Shabbat candles that Friday, but you got up and you did it anyway. How did you feel?
Empowered.
All right. Put this on the side. I feel like most of you did get the empowered feeling, but we're going to talk about, it's kind of like a segue into today's conversation. So if you open up your book, we are on page, and Eliza, do you mind sharing with either one of your seatmates over there? We are on page 28, and I am going to call 2 lovely volunteers. I'm going to call Adriana and Eliza, just because you guys are across the table, so you guys are good. All right, and here is the scenario. The scenario is this, and I'll tell you which ones you're playing. You admire your friend's newly styled chic hairdo and ask her for the name of her stylist. He avoids the question and quickly changes the subject. 2 weeks later, she meets you in the supermarket and asks you who did your beautiful highlights. Now, Adriana, you are going to be the natural soul. Eliza, you're going to be the godly soul. Now, we're going to review what it meant. So you're the one who's kind of, you're all out for you. She gets the assignment. Eliza, you're the altruistic, wanting to do things right. All right. And the person is now in between. So let's hear, what do you say to that person who asked you for your highlights and did not tell you?
Oh, I just found a place, like walking in the street, and I got there, and I really don't remember, exactly where it was, but no, it's inexpensive in a different place. No, I really don't know.
All right.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Aliza, how would you respond?
Oh, sure, of course. Let me take out my phone. I'll give you the number.
Ah, okay. So we have,
I can't hear her.
all right. So we had this situation where someone, you asked
No,
someone,
I heard all that. I just didn't hear the last response.
Yana is saying, oh, I don't know. I just got it done like, somewhere in a cheap place. I don't remember where the name is.
No, I heard that.
And Aliza says, oh, sure, here you go. I'll give you the number so nicely and sweetly,
Right.
not paying attention to what happened 2 weeks ago. All right. So for those who are here for the first time, and for those who just want a quick recap, last class, we discussed, oh, my kids are here. Yeah, we're having a fun day here, folks. Everyone's home from school today. Well, not everyone. 2 out of 3 are home from school. It's open. So last class, we discovered that we each are actually not hearing voices in our heads, but we actually have, that's not for our class. We actually have 2 souls that are within us. One of them is our natural soul. It runs through our blood, it runs through our veins, and it's the soul that is inherently selfish. It's not necessarily a bad soul, but it is inherently selfish, and it wants to do what is good for the body. Then we have our godly soul. Our godly soul is totally altruistic. It is only there to serve the divine will. It does not think of self. It just thinks, what does God want me to do? And that is what it wants to do. And these 2 souls are always at war within us, right? We discussed this, and we discussed what we talked about, the gray area and all that stuff. And you'll listen to it more next class, but just to give you a little taste of what we discussed last class. Yeah, this is a very, yes. So this is we are learning the Tanya, which is literally, like we say, the Bible of Hasidus. So these are concepts that I'm sure many of you who've attended mine or the rabbi's classes or any other Chabad classes have heard, but we're kind of going more in depth. So we talked about 2 souls, 2 drives, two different priorities, and also 2 different ways of viewing the world. And we also discussed that each of those souls has identical, albeit one natural, one more naturally driven, one more godly driven, internal makeups. We said everything is kind of equal in this world. And we know that only one soul can be dominant at one time in the body. So if we turn to page 28 on text number 1, we're going to read what the Tanya writes. And Adriana, why don't you be our first reader for today?
Okay. The body is called a small city, just as 2 kings wage war over a city that each wishes to capture and rule, so too the 2 souls, the godly soul and the vitalizing natural soul, wage war against each other over the body and all its limbs. The godly soul's will and desire is that she only rule and direct the person, but the natural soul desires the very opposite.
Thank you. All right, so there's a very cute joke. A traveling salesman is going door to door, and he's about to knock on the door, and he hears there's a lot of yelling coming from inside the house. So he waits until there's a lull in the yelling, and he knocks on the door, and someone says, "Who is it? What do you want?" He goes, "I'd like to speak to the master of the house. We're working on who that is at this very moment." All right. So we have I like to think of it. We have, our body is kind of like a small city, right? Think of all the parts of your body that you have: your head, your heart, your lungs, your legs, your hands, your feet. Our body is like a small city, and there are 2 kings that are always trying to be victorious in the kingdom that is our body, and that is our natural soul and our godly soul. And the problem is that there's no place for 2 kings. Only one can rule at one time. And so they're constantly fighting which one is going to be the winner at that time. And the problem is that they each want totally opposite. They want different things. The natural soul wants, what do I want? I want this. I want that. I want this. I want that. And the godly soul is saying, God wants this. God wants that. I want to do what God wants. And so there's such opposite things that they can't ever agree. And that's why we say we hear voices in our head. Yeah, we do hear voices in our head. These are our 2 kings that are trying to rule over us at any one time. And so if you ever stopped for a second and take a moment and just think for a minute, have you ever wondered what it would look like if you actually didn't have those voices in your head, if you actually never had to fight with yourself, if you always did the right thing and you never had those internal battles and you had that peacefulness inside of you, what would it look like?
And would be tzaddikim.
True, but what would it feel like inside of you? Go ahead.
I gotta think that we do hear voices. Then you realize these voices are yourself.
Yes.
Right, you're arguing with yourself.
Mhm.
You do the right thing. But however, you know, some people keep doing the same. When you have a problem, you keep doing the same thing.
Yes.
And you wonder why you get the same result.
Well,
So it's like your head. It's programmed. It's very easy, like to do when a situation comes up. You don't have anything new to deal with.
Ah,
just have
so,
the old
so you
program.
have come to the
So
right
you-
place,
so
Sheila.
you- Oh, I understand this.
But Shayna,
1 second. We're gonna 1 second. We're just finishing
Okay.
Sheila and then we'll. Good morning. Francis, that's Rona?
Yeah.
Oh, good morning, Rona. Welcome. Go ahead, Sheila.
So you continue to do what feels comfortable because you know the results. But the wise thing, however long it takes you, sometimes it takes me quite a while to figure this out. Like you say, who's going to win out? The good inclination or the other one that you're so
Exactly,
used to? So
exactly.
it fixed the
Good morning,
line.
Rona. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
All right, glad you joined us. All right.
okay, Shayna, I want to
Yes,
say
go
one
ahead,
thing.
Liz.
But doesn't it depend on the circumstance, actually? Every circumstance is different. So you don't treat every circumstance the same.
Of course.
So the two souls, you know, you have to determine which soul for which circumstance.
100%. But my question to you was, yes, of course, we have every circumstance requires a different approach and how we
Right.
react. My
Exactly.
question, my question to you was, sometimes we fight. Like I have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because I really want to work out, but I really don't want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because I really don't want to work out. Don't you wish you didn't have that? Like that.
Yeah,
Sometimes, like, wouldn't it feel nice?
it would be peaceful.
Right. Wouldn't it be nice to do the right thing all the time and loving doing that? And we basically take our animal soul and say bye-bye and throw
But
them
we're
in the
not
garbage.
perfect. We're not perfect.
All right. So there are actually people that exist like that who truly and have conquered and no longer have their internal conflict. They no longer have a natural soul. Whoa. 1 second. All right. They behave perfectly and they feel no opposition. They feel no negative impulses. And such a person is called a tzaddik.
A what?
A tzaddik. We're going to be learning three
Right.
different terminologies today. The first one is a tzaddik. And if we turn to text number 2 on page 29, Julia, do you mind reading for us?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Elisa, do you mind reading from Julia's book there? Or text number 2?
Tzaddikim are those?
Tzaddikim are those who wage war against their natural souls to the extent that they
Banish.
and I'm sorry, pardon me, mistake.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
eradicate
Okay.
its evil elements from within themselves.
Okay. So tzaddikim are somebody who want what God wants. They don't want what God doesn't want. They don't have any negative impulses. They always do the right thing. Now, it's said that when God created the world, he saw how few tzaddikim there would be, that he sprinkled them among the generations.
Wow.
So obviously, this is a very rare occurrence. And one example that I personally can think of is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a tzaddik. Okay, this is someone who has no negativity in them. They've banished their natural inclination, and their godly soul is the only thing that reigns within them. So if we turn to text number 3, Ellie, do you mind reading? Page 29.
Due to the tzaddik's great love of God, he or she despises the pleasures of this world and finds no enjoyment in human pleasures when they merely serve to gratify the physical appetite and are not associated with the service of God.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we see this is someone who literally has no desire to do anything that is not godly. Does this sound like any one of you?
No.
This definitely doesn't sound like any one of me, and quite
Absolutely
frankly,
not.
just about anyone that I know. Okay, so what about the rest of us?
Not perfect.
Okay,
We're human.
we're human, exactly. So now we're going to learn about another concept, and it's really all about what we call our conflict management skills, right? How well do we, and we talk about we as most of the people, because we said most people are not on the level of a tzaddik, unfortunately. Or it just actually, maybe it's not unfortunately, it's the way we were created, because we don't have, meaning a tzaddik was maybe born with an animal soul, but he was also gifted with the ability to conquer his natural soul. Most of us were not born with that ability. So what happens to the rest of us? So the rest of us have a term, and some of you are going to be like, oh, I don't like that term, but we're going to discuss it more. That is called a Russia.
A what?
A Russia. A Russia. So I know Elise is going, oh, I don't like that. Okay, she's heard that term before. So let's talk about what this means.
No, I'm thinking, what's to say about me if I was born in Russia?
Oh, well, that's also true. She was also born in Russia. All right. So what is a Russia? It's anyone who ever allows their natural impulse to have an effect in their body, which I can say applies to most of us. They're not bad people. It's just that their natural soul wins some or a lot of the time. So if we turn to page number 4, Barbara, do you mind reading page number 4 for us?
Okay,
Oh, text number 4, page 30. Thank you, Adrienne.
okay. The category of Russia is subdivided into myriads of degrees. On one end of the spectrum, there are those whose natural souls only infrequently overcome their godly souls, temporarily conquering their small city or body. But even then, the natural soul never gains control over the entire body, only parts of it. Either their natural soul only gains control of their actions, inducing them to violate minor transgressions, never major ones, God forbid, or it may exclusively prevail upon their speech, or only their thoughts, inducing them to consider sin. But after this, the goodness of the godly soul asserts itself. On the other end of the spectrum, there are those whose natural souls are more dominant and express themselves in all 3 garments, inducing them to commit more heinous sins, and more frequently. Intermittently, these people are regretful.
Okay, I know one more. However, they lack the strength to
Oh, I'm
overcome their
sorry.
natural souls and divorce them from sin. It could be it's on the next page. No worries.
Okay, yes,
All
sorry.
right. So what does this mean? Is that a Russia is someone who is able to control their negative impulses anywhere from 0 to 99% of the time. So we're talking a huge spectrum here, right?
Yeah.
And I would assume that a lot of us, or most of us, do fall into that category. So is that what it is? I'm either a tzaddik or a Russia. I'm either like amazingly good or not. Like what does that even mean? So we know a tzaddik is no internal conflict, and the Russia is imperfect because they have an animal soul. There is a third option, and here's the next word, the next word, the last big new word of today that we're going to learn, and that is called a Benoni. And a Benoni literally means an in-betweener. Now, what does that mean? It can't mean in-betweener means that they're good half the time and bad half the time, because that would make them a Russia. Because a Russia is someone who even 99% of the time. So it can't mean that they're half good, half bad. What's baking? It smells good, right? Maybe vodka's in there? I don't know. It smells like it, right?
Yes.
It does. All right. It's someone whose behavior in their thought, we learned this last class, okay? We talked about how the souls have garments. Think of it like clothing, right? How I present to the world, people see me for what I'm wearing, my makeup, my hair, my clothing, those are our garments. And the garments of our souls express themselves in 3 ways: through our thought, through our speech, and through our action. So a Benoni is someone whose thought, whose speech, and whose action is perfect. Meaning if I put a Benoni and a tzaddik side by side, I would not on the external be able to tell the difference. But on the inside, I could tell the difference. On the inside, if I put a Benoni and a Russia next to each other, they would look the same inside, because a Benoni is someone who struggles every single day, just like all of us do. He has a full-fledged natural soul who's kicking and who's screaming and who's doing all of that stuff that the natural soul does. He just has very good impulse control. He is able, or she is able, to control it all the time. So let's actually go to text number, page 32, exercise 2.2, and I'm going to read it out loud. And it's a yes or no question. And think about it as I'm reading it. Momo, do you mind just shutting the front door? It's getting hot. All right, it says, the first scenario is, I bet you $1 million that you could not give up your favorite food for a year. If you resist this food for a year, you become a millionaire. But if you succumb to temptation, even once, you owe me $1 million. Would you take the bet?
No.
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 Yeah.
1 minute, think about it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it. I love chocolate. Chocolate's my thing. I love chocolate. I love it. However, for 1 year, I get $1 million. I gotta tell you about it.
I can live without it.
For 1 year.
It's only 1 year.
It's 1 year, and then I get $1 million. I can do a lot of stuff with $1 million. So I'm thinking about it. Next scenario. Okay, but again, that's a personal thing. So you answer yes or no. The next question is, I bet you $1 million that you can't make yourself hate the food within a year. In a year, if you can truthfully say that you hate the food, you're a millionaire. But if not, you will owe me $1 million. Will you take the bet?
No,
Hate chocolate?
no, impossible. Definitely not.
Okay, so it's interesting.
We have a desire not to eat it.
What about you ladies on Zoom? Would you take the second bet?
No.
Leslie, would you take it?
I was ambivalent. It was interesting.
your
The
favorite
first one
food?
was no.
Leslie,
The
what's your
second one,
favorite
I was ambivalent. That's interesting.
Okay, so the way I see it is the first one is an action based, meaning you can fake it
Mhm.
for a year, right? I'll just make sure that not chocolate doesn't go near me. I'll like wear, I don't know, I'll do something. I'll carry apples with me everywhere. Like I'll figure it out, or I'll you know,
Candy.
yeah. But to make
Out of
me,
the house.
but to make me hate chocolate,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's possible.
Hypnotized.
I don't know. You'd have to do something to me, right? So this teaches us something very interesting. I can control my actions, but can I control my impulses?
Your
I can
thoughts.
control my action. I can come in with my.
Yeah,
juice,
she's got
my
her green juice there, ladies.
I was working out with
Yeah.
slides and I don't eat it, the cream cheese and even they like it. I was don't eat it.
Okay, so it's an interesting thing, right?
You can
So
put
what
it
is the
in
difference here? So now we see the difference between a Benoni.
Whatever.
Okay, the Benoni, obviously we're not talking about chocolate, but we're just for the sake of this argument, the Benoni is not going to eat the chocolate, but is he going to like the chocolate? He probably will, or she probably will. So let's turn to text number 30, page 33, text number 6. Leslie, do you mind reading?
No, not at all. Okay. Because the natural soul of the Benoni does not hold total control over the small city, it is unable to act out its desires by clothing itself in the body's limbs. The mind naturally and innately rules over the heart, as it is written in the Zohar, Parshat Pinchas. Thus, everyone can use their mind's will to restrain themselves and control their heart's lust, preventing their heart's desires from finding expression in deed, word, or thought. Still, such a person is not deemed a tzaddik at all, for the godly soul's dominance is limited to the 3 garments of expression.
Okay.
Beautiful accent.
Yeah, she
Yes.
does have a beauty. Leslie, they like your accent, Leslie. You speak all the time. All right, so we've just introduced a very big idea here. And it's something that actually I see a lot in modern psychology. For those who follow that, I find it very interesting, is that we as human beings, and that's really what sets us apart, by the way, from animals, is that we have the ability. I didn't say it was easy. We as human beings have the ability to control our impulses, which means I can't change my internal makeup. I can't do it. However, I can change how my garments, how my thoughts, speech, and action, you're going to say thought, I don't know about that. We're going to get there in a second. I can change how I react and how I deal with certain circumstances. I see some of you are looking at me that you're disagreeing with me. Okay?
I know from experience.
Okay. So the question is it natural? Can I always control myself?
Mhm.
Okay. Do I ever lose control?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Everyone's like, yeah. All right. The question is, though, think about how you lose control. Okay. Have you ever gone into the supermarket? I love this example, so I say it all the time. Whoever watched Father of the Bride? Okay, so it's a very
Oh,
simple
yes.
story about a dad whose daughter's getting married and discovers how expensive a wedding is, and he literally has a heart attack. And his wife sends him to the store to buy hot dogs and buns for supper, and he discovers that hot dogs come, I think, 8 in a pack, and buns come maybe 12 in a pack, and he doesn't need 12 buns, he only needs 8 buns, and he tries to rip the buns out of the package. He ends up getting arrested because whatever. Now, okay, that's like one of my favorite ways to explain this, because this is literally like what what it is here, okay? When I go to the supermarket and they're out of my favorite treat, whatever it is, do I throw myself all over the floor and throw a temper tantrum, or do I control myself? I control myself, exactly. And the difference we see in children who are still learning impulse control is that they don't have as much impulse control as hopefully adults do. And so we notice the difference in that. And then the same thing happens if I'm at work, or if someone in my family or my neighbor or whatever does something that really upsets me. Am I going to throw a temper tantrum? Usually not. Depends how many times it happens. Okay. Or for example, my kids are here, so they're listening. Do you usually see me yelling at my kids?
No,
Right? Not
we
usually.
don't see it, but we don't know if you do it or not.
Ah, you see, like, perfect. No, I'm joking. But do I ever yell at my kids?
I'm sure
I
you do.
But I don't do it in front of other people because I have impulse
right.
control. And I'm sure most of you, if you see a husband and a wife yelling in public, you say, oh my goodness, if they're doing this in public, I cannot even imagine what's happening in private, right? Because usually we care about what people think about us. And so we try to present ourselves in a positive light. So yes, we do have impulse control. And when we see a older child, teenager, and adult who does not have impulse control, we say, something's not right. They might need some more additional mental help, because that is not natural. That is not the natural way of human beings. So the question is, we could control ourselves. Every once in a while we lose our temper, but when we lose our temper or whatever it is, there's a little voice inside of us that lets us lose our temper.
Sometimes it triggers.
Exactly. 100%. And part of life is managing those triggers, right? So this is really what makes us human. And I actually love this, because what do we say in Yiddish? When we say when someone did something really good, we say, ach, he or she's a real mensch, right? Oh, that's a mensch. What does a mensch mean? A mensch means a human. That's what a mensch means. It means a human being.
It's a good.
Yeah.
It doesn't literally. Literally, no. Literally means it's like a human.
Oh.
Because we associated, like we all have words that we associate, but the word mensch, for those who speak Yiddish, it doesn't mean a good person. No, it's just the way we say, oh, he's a mensch. We mean, oh, that's a good person right there. Or she's a mensch. But it doesn't actually mean that, but we associate it with, because human beings, sometimes we can say, oh, I'm only human. I can do all, you have to like.
I'm only a mensch.
Right. You say, when someone says, oh, I'm only human, it's like, please forgive me for what I did. I'm only human. But in Judaism, we say, oh, he's such a mensch. Oh, this is a real human being. It's something to think about when you kind of take that, switch it around in your mind to say, oh, it's a real human being, because Judaism knows, yes, we're human. We've been granted with these amazing abilities to be able to control our impulses, which is something that not other creations can do. Yes. So if something, for example, if something was so crazy and off limits, you wouldn't do it. Like, I really hope that even however angry we get, none of us would go and kill someone, because that is something that we have control over ourselves. So now, 100%, because we are all works in progress. 100%,
chocolate for someone else.
100%, because every one of us is human, and every one of us is on our own journey in life. But we're just talking about the concept right now. So when a Benoni says, I am God's agent, and he doesn't or she doesn't allow themselves to do anything otherwise, they have perfect impulse control, to the point that they don't allow anything to any thought, speech, or action to reflect the natural soul. And the interesting thing is that the Alter Rebbe says we all have the capability of becoming a Benoni. In fact, the Tanya is called Sefer Shel Beinonim, the book of the Beinonim. So we can all become a Benoni. Why? Because all of us can control our behaviors. And now, obviously, we're going to be discussing more and more tools in every single class, because some of you are like, oh, that sounds really, really hard.
When you get in the car.
I'm sorry?
So when you get in the car.
Well, exactly. Lila, do you mind making it 1 degree cooler? Because now I'm getting hot.
Thank you.
Okay. No, we want it to be colder, not hotter. Yes,
Yes,
we're hot.
please.
So when you looked at this sheet right here, when you talked about the goals that you would like to do, all of this involved impulse control. I wanted to stay in bed today. I did not want to get up. Guess what? I got up anyway. Right? I did not want to pray this morning. Guess what? We did it anyway. I didn't want to yell. I mean, I did want to yell. I'm sorry. I did want to yell, but I held myself back. These are all things that we can do. So this proves to us, now I never said it was easy, but this proves to us that this is something that we can do. So now let's take it a little bit deeper. Anyone have any questions so far as we're moving on here? On the screen and in person?
How would you categorize fear then?
Well, it depends. How would you categorize fear? Well, let me ask you a question. What is the fear doing?
Well, I guess it depends on the fear, and if sometimes fear immobilizes you from moving forward.
So that is a very good question. I believe, by the way, that fear is something that is coming from our natural soul. And one of the things we have to do with fear is learn, and I'm not saying it's easy because I struggle from the same fear, anxiety, depression, all of those, those are all expressions of our natural soul. So we have to kind of work on skills that we can do to overcome that fear.
Right.
And it's never easy. And the good news is that Judaism is not an all or nothing. Judaism knows that we're always on a path. And so obviously when I'm talking here, these are all things that we work towards. It's not something that we can turn overnight. A Benoni doesn't become a Benoni overnight. That's something that he or she works to very much. So let's take this a little bit step further and hopefully this will, yes. Yes, please.
That it sounds impossible when we hear, that we can be a Benoni or a child of the other. But really, we have to look at it per incident, per moment.
All right, Elisa, hold that thought. All right. So now let's go into the garments, right? We talked about thought, speech, and action. So action, now none of these are easy, but action is something very external. So technically action might be one of the easier ways to do it, meaning I can think whatever I want in my mind. I can think, oh, he's such a horrible, horrible person and I hate him, but I'm going to be nice to him. I'm sure we can all have done that at different points in life. Action is one thing. Speech is another. Can I control what comes out of my mouth? Hopefully. Hopefully we can control what comes out of our mouth. We can control what we do. But what about thought? Is thought a behavior? Can we really control thoughts? Ladies, what do you think on Zoom? Because the ladies here are all going, Can you control your thoughts?
I think thought is the most
To a certain extent.
Cheryl, what do you think?
Well, it depends what you do before the situation. If you're in there's two ways to accomplish it. One is through prayer, that as a calming effect and a stabilizing effect. And the other is something more that's been learned in my generation, which is meditation. Is to calmness, to have perspective.
I like it. All right. So Cheryl is saying that she thinks of that prayer and meditation are something that can help calm our thoughts. Yes. I like that. So let's take this a step further. I want all of you to take 60 seconds, 1 second, take 60 seconds right now. And I want you to do multiplication in your head. Pick any number you like. You can even do the 1 times table. For 60 seconds, I want you to multiply and I want you just to multiply. Go.
Okay, we're on there.
Ladies, Elisa, when you did your multiplication tables, did anything else come into your mind?
Tried to, but I stopped.
Okay. Barbara, when you did the multiplication tables, did anything else come into your mind right now?
No.
Lynn, what about you?
So you're misdirecting your thoughts. That's
I don't like the word. I don't like the word misdirection.
Well,
Directing.
You're redirecting.
you're
Misdirection
redirecting the
negative
thoughts.
connotation.
Okay.
Did anyone else have
Redirect.
any thoughts that came into their head? I was thinking in third grade, let's begin.
No.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 21, 24, 27, 30. Like that's what I learned in the third grade. And that's how I learned the 3 times table. And when I had that going in my head, nothing else came in. The way I like to think of our minds, and everyone has their own imagery. I have a vivid imagination. So one of the ways that I do is I kind of think is like we're a hallway, right? And we have doors along the hallway and things are kind of passing along the hallway. And so there's a big difference between active conscious thoughts, like I'm thinking of the multiplication tables, and then there's kind of things that are passing by. And a really great way to understand it is, and we all have technology, we all have computers, we have phones. You ever heard of a pop-up? We have pop-ups. They're the bane of our existence, right? They're the telemarketers of the computers. What is a pop-up? I'm writing my email, I'm ordering my clothes on Amazon, I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing, and then something pops up and they listen to you, you know that, right?
Yes.
They hear what you're saying. So I get pop-ups of all
Thinking.
yes.
What you're
Yes.
thinking.
And so a pop-up
Yes,
comes up.
and they
right?
send you the nicest shoes. or
Okay.
something.
And sometimes it's an appropriate thing, sometimes it's a very inappropriate thing. Pop-ups come up. So we have 3 choices what to do with our pop-ups. The first choice, we can go, ooh, sparkly shoes. Let me look, and we click on it and we start browsing. The second one is to say, oh, I see it, it's shoes. Okay, later. The third one is to go X. And we've all been guilty of doing all 3, right?
Yeah.
X. So we all have pop-ups, and we cannot control, because we are not Sadiqim, we cannot control the pop-ups. And now I said something as benign as shoes, but it could be something that's from as inappropriate to, you take the realm from 0 to 99%. It can be any pop-up that comes up, and each of us have our unique internal makeup. So our minds know exactly which pop-ups to send us when and in different situations. So we have an option when a pop-up comes up. Now, we cannot control the pop-ups. So in that regard, we cannot control those thoughts. No. But what we can do is, I like to think of shut the door or X out that pop-up. That we do have the ability to do. And so what a Benoni does is, when a Benoni sees a pop-up, what did the Benoni do? They push it away. And this is a muscle, by the way.
This is the concept of mindfulness.
This is the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy. This is the concept of so much of modern psychology that is obviously been around for a very long time, where the Tanya was written in the 1700s. But this is the concept that actually, if we taught this class 50 years ago, I think people would be a lot less open to this concept. But today we live in a world where this mindfulness, meditation, all of that stuff is very much part of our lives. So it's actually something we can understand. So if we turn to page number 34, I will read out loud. The natural soul of the Benoni doesn't hold enough power even to cause the mind to willingly entertain, God forbid, an inappropriate thought that rises from the heart. Instead, the moment the thought appears, Benonim shove it away with both hands. As soon as they detect that a thought is sinful, they remove their attention from it and will not even entertain it as a fantasy. Certainly, it never enters their mind to act on it, God forbid, or even to speak of it. So this is very interesting. And I think it's something, I know I'm not at that level. Generally, I don't speak for all of you, so I'll let you each speak for yourself. This is something that we have to work towards, or we try to work towards. This is something that's difficult, but we do know that it is possible. And it also is so helpful in so many ways, because it teaches us that we should be focusing on the positive, kind of pushing away the negative, and it's a muscle. Just like Julia can tell us, because Julia is the queen of exercise here, by the way. If you ever, she's the queen of lots of things, but one of them is exercise. And what you do is, the more you exercise, the more in shape you get, because you're practicing the muscle. The same is true of our minds. The more we practice any skill, including this skill, the stronger that muscle gets. And so if we turn to page 35, text number 8, the same is true in interpersonal relationships. The moment any animosity, hate, jealousy, anger, grudge, and I'm going to put fear here, Leslie, rises from the heart to the mind. Beinonim refuse to entertain them willingly. On the contrary, their minds prevail upon their hearts to do the literal opposite. They go out of their way to show kindness and love to their fellow and are extraordinarily tolerant, never getting angry, and certainly never exacting revenge. So this is obviously way easier said than done. But this is what a Benoni does. He or she, when they encounter the checkout person at whatever store they're going to being nasty to them or whatever it is, the natural impulse tells us, excuse me, can I speak to your manager right now and make the whole deal? The godly soul says, this person must be having a hard time, or even, yeah, they're annoying me, but they kind of push that pop-up out of the way and they are kind to that person. They treat them well. So let's turn to page 36 before we move on. And I want you all to scream out the answers if you know them. What is a tzaddik?
Huh?
What is a tzaddik? Well, let's review what we've come done.
Someone who has just a godly soul.
Exactly. Someone who has no natural soul. They have no inner conflict. They only, their natural soul reigns free. That key rules in their body.
Yeah.
What is a Russia?
50-50.
Well, actually, it's 0 to 99.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Someone who is challenged. I like that, Elisa.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Someone who has inner conflict and doesn't manage it perfectly. And by perfectly, it means someone who's 99% of the time, which, let me tell you, I aim for that. That is a Russia. What is a Benoni?
Someone who
I
has
guess that's culture.
Not just, we all have the right tools.
Yeah.
The
But
toolbox
knows
we
how
all
to
have
use
it. Who is able to control their garments, their mind, their thoughts, their speech, and their action. Is a tzaddik fundamentally different than the average person?
Yes.
Yes. Their natural soul is completely dormant. It's non-existent. And is it within our control or your control to be a tzaddik?
No.
Okay, very good.
Oh,
All right. Is a
Okay, thank you
Benoni
so much.
fundamentally different than the average
Thank you.
person?
No.
No. Are you able to become a Benoni?
Yes.
All right, ladies. Very,
can
very
try.
impressive. Okay, you guys have been listening. I like this very much. All right, so we're going to turn to text number 9. And Barbara, can we bother you to read again?
Yes, okay. Benoni is a state that everyone can achieve and everyone ought to pursue it. For every person can be a Benoni at any time. For Beinonim aren't revolted by evil, which depends on the heart and cannot always be controlled. Instead, they turn from evil and do good, from Psalms 37:27, in their natural actions and thoughts. For everyone has the ability to consciously choose how they act, speak, or think, even if it is the antithesis of what their heart desires.
Thank you very much. All right, so this is actually a very nice story, is that there was a rabbi, his name was Reb Nissim Nemanov. He was a chassid of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it was known that the Rebbe had referred to this gentleman as a true Benoni. And so, you know, sometimes you know things, but one of his, I don't know if it was his nephew or one of the kids came to visit, and, you know, kids are not great at discretion.
No.
And so he walks up and he goes, "Are you a Benoni?"
Oh, no.
And so he replied,
Yes.
"You can be a Benoni. For the next minute, don't do anything you're not allowed to do." So the little boy went to the shelf. He took out a Tehillim, a book of Psalms, and he said Tehillim. He read Psalms. And after the minute, he goes, "For the last minute, were you thinking, speaking, or doing anything wrong?" And the boy says, "No, I was just saying the words of Tehillim." So for that minute, Reb Nissim concluded, you were a Benoni. Now you just have to keep doing it all the time. So let's look at exercise 2.3. All right, and I want to, it's also another exercise in this Benoni exercise. And I'll read it out loud. Every one of us can choose to be in the state of Benoni at any time, but rather than talk about it, let's experience it for ourselves. For the next 60 seconds, refrain from allowing your natural soul any garments. That means thoughts, speech, and actions. Sitting around idly doesn't work. We know nature abhors a vacuum, right? Because that indulges the natural soul's laziness. So for the next 60 minutes, we will say the Shema prayer. So let's read the prayer out loud. I'll read it out loud. And I want you to look at the words, see what it means, and just think about that and see what happens. Because all of us are going to have different reactions here. All right, so I'm going to read it out loud. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be the name of the glory of his kingdom forever and ever. We said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchus Leolam Vaed. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes. And you shall write them upon your doorposts of your house and upon your gates. V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha b'chol yadech. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anechi mitzavachayim ala bavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha v'vitzecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shavcha v'chamecha u'kshartam lios al yadecha v'hayu l'totafos b'neinecha u'ksavtam al mezuzos b'secha u'bisharecha. All right, ladies on Zoom and in person, how did it go up there? Did you have straight thoughts coming in? Yes. No? Julia, wow. Anybody else? Did you have straight thoughts coming in? We did it in Hebrew and in English.
Well, you were reading it in English. I was saying it in Hebrew.
Ah, okay. That's not called a straight thoughts. Did anyone have
trying to see if I could understand the Hebrew, which I say by heart.
That's why I said the Hebrew after, just to help.
English.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Anyone have any straight thoughts?
Only during Shmonas. Only when you're doing in Hebrew.
Okay, exactly. Because you know, exactly. I did it in Hebrew and English for everyone here. All right. So if you had a straight thought, and I'm going to assume some of you might have, what did you do with that thought? Did you open the door? Did you let the pop-up into your window? Or did you say, pop-up, door, I'm closing you, I'm pushing you away?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So that is where the choice lies. Like for those who know Alcoholics Anonymous, what do they say in AA? One day at a time. Yeah. Hi, Chasya. Everyone say hi, Chasya. All right. So there's a really great joke. There's a comedian who says, you know, this gentleman decided that tomorrow morning he's getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning so he can go learn to the kol. He's going to learn Torah before he goes to work. 5 o'clock in the morning, his alarm clock rings and he starts having a fight. His natural soul says, no, don't you dare get up. I'm tired. Get back into bed. His godly soul's, no, we're going to go learn Torah. It's going to be good. And he has a fight and he goes, eventually I won. He goes, really? He goes, yeah, it took me 6 hours. But eventually my God. Okay. So this is, it's something that as human beings, as mention, right? We say a mensch is singular, mention is plural. It's something that we grapple with. Generally, most of us grapple with all the time. Now, obviously, some of us, like we talked, I know in previous courses, we've talked, what's your favorite mitzvah, right? Everyone has a favorite thing they love to do because our personalities, like I love feeding people. My mother always joked that Jana would open a soup kitchen when she's older. I can't stand seeing hungry people. So I truly enjoy giving people food. It's like a joy of mine. And then some people hate cooking. And for them to host a Shabbat dinner is torture for them. Because to be in the kitchen and to feed people, it's so hard. But for me, I won't say I enjoy cooking, but I do enjoy feeding people. So for me, that might be something that for me is very easy for me. But for you, it might be really hard. And then the opposite is true. For me, praying is very hard. It's just not in my nature. I've always found prayer to be difficult for me. But then I meet people who prayer is like their love language. They love to pray. They love to connect with God in that way. So we all have our personality, and we are all born with different personality traits. All of us have things inside us that make certain things easier and certain things harder. And no two people are the same. But what we do,
We're almost there.
We can try to aim. I don't like the term moments. I try to aim for Benoni areas. And the way I think of it is like, you know, my brothers, before we had internet in our house, we used to have we had like one of those old big clunky computers. You remember those? No. Okay. We had those big clunky computers, those little floppy disks that they would put with their computer game.
I apologize. Can you ask the person who keeps interrupting to mute?
Yes. If you're on Zoom and you're not speaking, do you mind just putting yourself on mute because we're hearing some background noise in the car?
Thank you, Shana. I appreciate it.
So I remember they used to have this game. I think it was like Kill All the Nazis or whatever. And there was a police, you know, in those days. So I remember like you have like a city in front of you. And what do? You go like street to street to street to street to street. So let's say for simplicity's term, today you've conquered street C and street D. but the rest of the city is still in enemy hands, so to say. Like, that's the way I think of it in that way. So we all have different parts of us that in those areas, we might feel like we've almost reached a Benoni area. And I won't say we reached a level of Benoni because it's all or nothing when it comes with the Benoni. But we've had areas in our life where we don't struggle. Our natural impulses don't bother us in that area, but it bothers us in other areas. So did we do exercise 2.4? Let's do it now. So let's look at this scenario and then let's talk about what this person falls under. An old lady rode the bus carrying her groceries. She also had her life savings of $20,000 in her purse and was bringing it to the bank. When she got off at her stop, she was horrified to realize while she had remembered her groceries, she had forgotten the purse on the bus. An hour later, a man showed up to the police station with the purse and all of the money. Needless to say, the old lady was relieved and thanked the man profusely. A local news outlet heard the story and interviewed the hero who returned the money. Were you tempted to keep it? The reporter asked. Oh, yes, he answered. The moment I found the money, the first thing that popped into my head was to pay off my car and take a trip to the Bahamas. I had to literally force myself to go down to the police station and turn it in. Assuming that the man in the story is expressing his typical reaction to moral dilemmas, is he a tzaddik, a rasha, or a Benoni? He's a Benoni, exactly. Meaning that impulse was there. Oh, that's $20,000. I can think of a lot of things I can do with $20,000. But he said, no, I'm going to listen to my godly soul here and I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to return the money, which is what he did. But he's not making light of the fact that he really wanted to keep it. Okay, but he did the right thing. And I think all of us can kind of find ourselves in that frame of, yes.
But what's the difference between that and the Rasha, who 0 to 99%?
In that, you're right. There probably isn't that much of a difference. A Rasha could do that as well. He would be a Rasha or a Benoni. You're probably correct.
I think Russia is a subdivision. I'm sorry, Benoni is a subdivision of the Russia.
Well, actually, no, because a Benoni is someone who never, ever, ever gives into his negative impulses.
Okay.
Never, never, ever. Now, it could be that a Benoni falls off the bandwagon and falls back into the category of the Russia, but he's not called a Benoni then. He's fallen off the band, like, you know.
Yeah.
A Rasha, though, can be a Benoni.
We yes, can aspire, can work to become one. Yes. All right, let's see where we are here.
So Benoni basis is even if you have the back thoughts in your mind, you will do the right thing.
Exactly. But even more than that, when it comes into the Benoni's mind, and this obviously is a work in progress.
Yeah.
So a Benoni is not born a Benoni. A Benoni is someone who started off a Rasha, just like the rest of us. And a tzaddik also, by the way, and also conquered and works, and that muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger until he or she becomes the category of a Benoni. It's not something that happened poof, because we know that every single, and I was listening to actually, is someone who's working on it. We're all working on it. Go ahead, Sheila.
Well, it seems like we clean our house and get rid of the clutter. One of the things I think we need to do is in our mind, when we're talking about the evil and good inclination, is we have to do some cleanup there. So when you start doing good things and having positive thoughts, it can be accomplished, but you have to do that cleaning and removing.
And you have to do it constantly. Because I'll tell you this,
what you want.
Exactly. Yes.
Also, I always say they affect you, the people that's around you too. Because if you go out and stay with people that try to do the best, they will come out more easy to you doing. So you go right.
Yes.
Doing good things.
Yeah.
And thinking positive.
It's definitely conducive. It's definitely conducive. Yes. But there is a lot of internal work there. So it's interesting. I was listening to another Chabad Rebbe who was giving this class. So she gave a great example. She says, unfortunately, with genetics, she's born with terrible teeth. So every time she goes to the dentist, she like practically leaves crying because she's like, I have a gazillion cavities. I've had root canals that probably need root canals on top of them by now. Every time she goes to the dentist, there's another problem. And it's just so stressful for her. And she said one time, she said, that's it. Enough is enough. By my next visit, whatever, 6, 7, 8 months it's going to be. She said, I became the teeth police. I brush my teeth twice a day. I floss 17 times a day. I was gargling with mouthwash. I was like, I traveled with a suitcase with my teeth products. I was not going to have any problems with my teeth. And turns out she goes to her next appointment and actually it worked. She didn't have any problems with her teeth because she worked so hard on this. So she's like, I'm back to regular. I'm doing everything. So she fell back to her old ways. And guess what happened when she went to the dentist the next time? The problems were back. So when we, and this is obviously, it's a great example just to prove the point here, is that when we always keep in mind that we're always in battle. Awareness. We're always having a battle inside of us, and we're hopefully aiming to do better. And that's involved in so many areas of our life when we're aiming to do better, to know that we can have those moments, like that little boy who said to Hillam for a minute. For that minute, he had that Benoni moment. Is he a Benoni? No, but he had a Benoni moment. And that's something we can kind of work our way towards, that hopefully one day we can kind of get close to that. I mean, I will say it's a very hard thing to do, but we have to know that it's within all of our capability to do so. And as long as you're working on it, you're still in the game. Life is a journey. We're always working on it.
We're working progress.
Yes. So if you turn to page 40, so until the next lesson, see if you can create pockets of self-mastery. Use the Benoni experiment we ran in class, which was kind of like this, okay? Or the experiment where we said the Shema or did the multiplication tables, just to give you an example, or fill in the blank with whatever you find is easier for you to distract, and practice it in your regular life for a few minutes at a time, once or twice a day, or as often as comfortable. Be conscious of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Be mindful of when it doesn't work, and reflect on why you think it happened. And we'll talk about that more next time. So today we've had one. I always say all of us have toolbox. Our coping skills in life are a toolbox. And so all of us, as life goes on, gets different tools to put in that toolbox to help us cope through life. That's part of growing up and gaining wisdom and maturity. So today we've added a tool to our toolbox, and that is the fact that we can control our impulses. We have self-control. Is it a work in progress? Oh yeah. Is it hard at times? Oh yes, it is. But it's a tool that we have. And obviously we're going to continue discussing how we can control our emotions at later classes. So let's turn to page 41. Let's just quickly review. And then I wanted to end the class with a beautiful song, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Yeah, Momo, can you just turn the air down? Up, sorry, up. All right. So let's look at it real quick. Point number 1, the 3 garments, thoughts, speech, and action can only be controlled by one of the 2 souls at any given time, and the 2 souls vie for control like 2 kings over the same kingdom. A tzaddik is one whose godly soul is entirely in control, while the natural soul lies completely dormant. A rasha is one whose natural soul sometimes finds expression in the soul's garment. A Benoni is one whose internal struggle mirrors that of the rasha, but whose behavior is identical to that of the tzaddik. We can choose our thoughts, speech, and action, so everyone has the potential to achieve the rank of a Benoni by choosing not to allow the natural soul's expressions of the garment. Questions, comments, anyone?
I think the only thing that can disrupt this a little bit is what happens in our life. You may be in control, but sometimes something tragic, different things happen.
Things trigger us, like we have triggers, yes.
Triggers. There are things that happen, and it's difficult to always be in control, not get angry and things like that. But over a period of time, I think you can get back to making good choices.
Yes.
It's all about attitude, and hopefully we try to have
And exercising that muscle.
Yeah.
Right? Ladies on Zoom, any questions?
No.
No, it's incredible. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to end the class by playing a song, and I'm going to turn off the lights so you can see it better on the screen here. Hold on, hold on 1 second. I want our ladies on Zoom to see their class for a second, so 1 second. Everyone say hi.
Hi.
All
right.
Say hello to JJ and
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Rona.
All right, so I wanted everyone just to see everyone for a minute. All right, Julia, do you mind, in that little bookshelf, there's a light switch. Do you mind just shutting it off? And then I'm going to play something on the screen. Perfect, thank you. And then maybe just, here, 1 second. No, you're good. And just, you may want to come here. Julia, come on over here, you'll see it better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, let me share the screen, and I'm going to play that. It's called the Benoni song, and the previous Rebbe was the one who named it. It's a beautiful niggin. It's a beautiful song of the soul, and it really describes the conflict that we have and how a Beinoni comes to it. And there's actually words that you can follow along with. So hold on as share screen. I'm gonna. Okay, can you all see that? Oh, let me also share sound. Hold on, how do I do this? Hold on. Advanced sharing options? No. Hold on, ladies. Sorry, I just want to remember. I want to make sure I share the song. Oh, share sound. Optimize for video clips. Yes. Okay. Yes,
Very
it's a
nice.
beautiful song. Yes, I love it too. It's a very beautiful. Yeah. Oh, 1 second. It's still going. Hold on.
Escorted to the
No, that's a different
That's
one.
not the one?
Nope,
It
that's a
sounded very
different one.
Similar.
They do. That's a different one. I'll show you. It's a different one.
Wow.
Okay, so before we end the class, any questions, comments, ladies on Zoom, ladies in, do you mind putting the light back on? And then have a seat, ladies, yeah, because we're done with the screen. Any questions?
Just a great class. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Loved it.
We need to get a picture, so everyone sit down and we're gonna smile. Hold on, we're gonna put everyone into the class, okay? Everyone's in the class. Oh, okay. Here, Eliza and Julia, you want to go move down over there?
No, I'm even on it.
You're in the pic. Oh, that's funny.
We'll have to delete it. Or- that's- All right, wait,
No, it's fine.
all right,
They never come out good.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. You got to have a picture or else it never happened, right? Okay, perfect.
When is the next class, Shayna?
Adriana knows. She's my
Just a
class
second.
keeper.
Just a second. Then we go to Tanya.
Give me what?
We're gonna make this-
It's January 19th.
So January 19th is the next class.